when we in the media opine on things, not saying we're always, to use the Mona Lisa veto phrase, dead on balls accurate. We're sometimes not accurate, admittedly, okay? Sometimes we're not accurate. But today, we kind of are. Now, listen, no brainer. When a team's like saying, hey, do you want Luka Doncic in a trade? And the answer is going to be, we're listening. Go on. Whatever you want to say, go on.
We're waiting.
Whatever you want to, what do you got in mind? The answer is going to be yes. And certainly, even if it's just like, we'll take Anthony Davis from you, sure. You know, it's a no-brainer of no brains. It's exactly what you're supposed to do. But when it happened, many of us, including all of us here, were like, okay, number one is the phone. What is the Mavericks malfunction? That was the general gist. What is your malfunction? What are we doing here? Because Anthony Davis is great and all, and
Hall of Famer,
but he kind of has some issues staying healthy. Charles Barkley famously nicknamed him street clothes. It's a tough one, but it's kind of accurate. So there's that. And then sure enough, Anthony Davis, acquired while still hurt, comes back, dominates in his first game with the Mavericks for 2.5 quarters, and then gets hurt.
Yep. So
that happened. And then the question was for the Lakers, who's going to rim protect? What's going to happen with the perimeter defense? And if somebody, let's just say, give me a for example, just Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
What if he blows by Luka? If Luka's on him, what happens? Who's going to protect?
I'll tell you what happens.
What's your last line of defense?
Or let's just say you're forced to go with a small lineup. Okay, you're forced to go with a small lineup, and who's gonna rebound? Who's gonna keep the opposing player off the board? If say, just for somebody, for example, Rudy Gobert.
Okay, yeah, he's big.
Good example.
Sure enough, smash cut to last night in the downtown Hoops Dojo here in Los Angeles, California. And the Los Angeles Lakers are eliminated for the first time in franchise history as a 3 seed or better in the first round. That's never happened in the franchise's vast, lush, highly successful Tiffany of the NBA franchise. Never happened. And it happened last night. And in that game, I have it here, Rudy Gobert had 1,005 rebounds.
That was such
that would be a record, I think.
And 1,200 offensive rebounds, which is a record to have more offensive rebounds than total rebounds. That's never happened before.
He broke Moses Malone's record last
I
night.
think you're picking up what I'm putting down. All of our questions about what's going to happen
came to fruition.
Yeah, like spot on. Spot on. And once again, a playoff series ends with Luka looking like he's got a 40-year-old body, and the 40-year-old in LeBron James not having enough on his own with a hurt Luka and no rim protection and a small grouping out there to prevent anything. And lo and behold, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, the Luka for Anthony Davis trade winds up with a grand total of one combined NBA playoff win for the two teams involved in the season in which the trade was made. And the amount of time we spent here and other shows spent here and the amount of print, the amount of digital stories, all of it that we've spent about it, grand total, one playoff win in the year in which it happened. And that's kind of crucial, certainly for the Lakers, because LeBron hit the big 4-0 in this season. And the conversation is, as you know, grab that. I should have told you this before the show. Grab the red hand to your right, please. Because this is what gets busted out when it's the Cowboys in football, the Yankees in baseball, and the Lakers in the NBA. The dreaded finger of blame. Who is to blame? And everybody's getting blamed today. It's either Luka's desire to get his body in shape, or it is LeBron's responsibilities that he doesn't shoulder himself. Is it him? He's just Mr. Superstar isn't enough to just shoulder it all anymore. It's potentially Rob Pelinka, the general manager, and the way that the roster was constructed, especially since the rim protecting was taken care of by acquiring Mark Williams from Charlotte, only to send him back. So even, I imagine, whichever doctor said, no, we're not going to accept this trade on behalf of the Los Angeles Lakers, there's a finger of blame pointed in that doctor's direction.
Talk to you, Dr.
Mark Williams tweeting out a smiley face last night.
Wow, really?
Because as we all know, after the trade was reversed, Mark Williams only went back to the dreadful Charlotte Hornets and damn near doubled every night. Very healthily, I might add.
Yo, his Instagram story was the dude who goes to the funeral just to make sure his hater was dead.
Mark Williams having a grand old time. J.J. Redick getting the finger of blame because he did not substitute a single time in the Game 4 loss in the second half. He was asked if he consults his assistants about that sort of stuff before the game, and he said that was a terrible assumption and got up and left the press conference prior to the Game 5. And then in Game 5, didn't play Jackson Hayes a single lick. 0 minutes for Jackson Hayes as Rudy Gobert was dominating underneath, and Julius Randle was having his way, and the lane was wide open. Finney Smith was the one who was trying to guard Gobert. He fouls out, and then the first picture you had up, Mr. Hoskins and Monaco, of Anthony Edwards, when I mentioned Edwards. The guy guarding Anthony Edwards, does anybody know who number 14 on the Lakers is? His name is Maxi Kleber. He came in the trade. He hasn't played since January. He was cleared from being out 40-plus games due to injury, and when Finney Smith went out, they turned to him. Redick turns to a guy who hasn't played since January. You know who else hasn't played in the NBA since January? Everyone in this room.
Me. DJ.
Mike Del Tufo. You haven't played in the NBA since January either.
Well, good point.
Finger of blame. We're running out of we got to go to a second hand for the number of people receiving the dreaded finger of blame today for the Lakers. I mean, I don't know what Jackson Hayes did for them to tell him before the game. As he said after the game, they told him we're gonna try something else today for a DNP CD. I mean, basically, I would think at the way it was going, Redick would turn around to Pelinka, who was sitting there in his awesome, cool dad leather jacket. Hey, Rob, turn around and. Is there anybody in the stands in crypto who's tall enough? Let's sign that person to a 10-day or a 10-minute contract. That's what you'd think you'd have to, but they didn't do it. Listen, I'm not there. I'm not in the practices. I'm not in the film room. And without a doubt, and I know Perk was making fun of how J.J. Redick acts like he's the smartest guy in basketball. He's definitely smarter than me when it comes to basketball. And this is what he had to say about Jackson Hayes afterwards.
Given the struggles scoring the ball, particularly early in the series. There's a trade-off. There's always a trade-off. You could say, "Oh, play a center." We couldn't score, so there's a trade-off to everything.
That's the truth, man. They couldn't shoot threes in the fourth quarter. Austin Reeves needed to be that third guy in. Even with Luka and LeBron teaming up, he didn't shoot it. And it's kind of crazy, though. I mean, they traded for Mark Williams. They could have used him last night. Yeah. Instead, he's sitting at home having a grand time with his thumb and is hitting his send button on every possible platform he could clown the Lakers on. And the guy that they wound up trading for him, but getting back, Dalton Connect. He was DNP CD'd also. Yeah. So you get the guy back, and then it's time to actually try and score the basketball. They didn't trust him for some reason either. I mean, they tightened the rotation. Gabe Vincent took the most must-make three of the Lakers season last night with less than a minute to go, down 6 points, 2 threes. He took the three. Not Luka, not LeBron, not Reeves, not Connect, because he was nailed. He was connected to the bench.
Not even Hachimura.
So again, who was making most of the threes?
Yeah, he had 5,
right? Yeah. So let's ask LeBron. Our friend Dave McMenamin of the worldwide leader, or pardon me, serving fans everywhere, of ESPN, whose better half, by the way, is appearing on Women's Sports Now today. Malika Andrews is the guest of Women's Sports Now on Roku. Check that out. She was here yesterday. And you could check out that episode. Now, Dave McMenamin crushed it. Question of the post-game press conference, getting the soundbite everybody's talking about today from LeBron.
Right when AD got injured, you guys started playing a lot of centerless basketball, and that required a lot from you and Doe and Rui and then Vando once he got back. Just from a physical, taxing standpoint, how tough was that for the last 3.5 months to play that style, and do you feel like that caught up at all in this series?
No comment. I'll never say that because my guy AD said what he needed, and then he was gone the following week, so I got no comment. I put that uniform on every night. I gave everything I had, and that's all that matters.
All right, we need a LeBron interpreter here. Windhorst isn't here to help us. No comment. Did he say that Anthony Davis was traded for speaking his mind, and that thus he would put himself on that chopping block if he speaks his mind? Because he no commented and then commented. And is he saying they shouldn't have traded for Luka? Or is he saying they shouldn't have nuked the Mark Williams trade because they did have somebody and then decided to be overly cautious when it came to bringing him in?
Yes to all of it.
How can you say you don't trade for Luka Doncic?
Really?
No matter what you say about his body and it breaks down, and the ultimate takeaway from last night is, boy, he's really got to hit that gym in the summer. He's got to show up. He's got to show up in October with a rocked up, no more dad bod for a 25-year-old, which does give credence to why the Mavericks didn't want to sign him to the max. But you can't sit here and say shouldn't have done the Luka trade. I mean, if that is what he's implying.
No, I thought maybe he was implying that he just didn't answer the question.
That's a pretty embarrassing answer for him, honestly. Come on, man. You're the face of the franchise. Everyone thinks you're pulling all the strings behind the scenes.
Well, clearly not.
And for you to just go, no comment, man. I'm just a regular guy out here. I put my uniform on like everybody else.
He's a worker bee.
That is really embarrassing.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know what he's implying. Is he implying AD said, because Anthony Davis is referring to before the trade said, hey, at the trade deadline, we need to get a center in here, like a bona fide center. So not everything's on him, and he could, I imagine, be free to play Anthony Davis basketball from the 3-point line all the way to the rim.
And he was right.
Okay.
That's what they needed.
And so he's then implying saying, hey, he said that, and then he got traded the next week. Meaning what? He got traded for speaking his mind? Because you're out of your mind if you think Rob Pelinka shouldn't receive a call from Nico Harrison underneath the radar of anybody, saying, don't tell anybody, but we're thinking of moving Luka, and the only person I'm calling is you, and the only person I want back is Anthony Davis, and you don't say, sold. Like, can we send you at least a term sheet before we hang up? Like,
but that's all done on the contingent that they're going to handle the front court issues.
If that's what he's implying, that we had Mark Williams and we sent him back, and all he did was dominate, and look at what we've had to deal with for the last 3 months, then it seems like that finger of blame is being pointed from number 23 right at the general manager, right at the roster builder.
The question is this. Do you think if they didn't make this trade at all and still had Anthony Davis, would they have won more than a single playoff game? You have to say yes.
Certainly, you'd have to say that if they had that roster, Dalton Connect would have gotten off the bench.
Yeah. That dude had a stretch where he was lights out.
Right.
In
And
the
if
middle
you're
of the
thinking
season.
about scoring,
He just forgot how to shoot.
if you're thinking about scoring, I understand. Like, if his perimeter defense is no good, Anthony
Had to have been
Edwards
better than Luka's.
Right.
Well, Luka, you got to play.
And if Anthony Davis is there, then Rudy is not turning into Wilt Chamberlain last
Exactly.
night. You know,
Well, then they would have beaten him another way.
maybe, but AD only had 15. So you figure if you're going to hold the best player on the team,
I think they would have just beaten him another way. Because
The
guess
Wolves were
what?
trying to give away that game last night.
I
They
know.
couldn't hit a broadside of a barn from the perimeter.
Right? I mean, even Julius Randle was in serious foul trouble in the first half. McDaniel played. He fouled out.
Yeah, one of those guys fouled out.
Naz Reid was turning down threes. Like, it was all there for the Lakers to take it last night.
Sure was. And the game before.
But you can't say you can't say they shouldn't have traded for Luka. That is just absolutely
Given how
off the charts
we're
nuts.
absolutely playing the result.
Yes.
Given the result, no, they shouldn't have.
Okay. But
the result being they also had Alex Len, the 7-footer, on the bench. He didn't get up. They had Markieff Morris. At least maybe put a body. I understand you're saying you're trading offense, but you can't let this 7'4" guy just go in there who's not known as an offensive juggernaut. You got to put a body on this.
Crazy.
Dude. You had 7-footers on the bench doing nothing.
Crazy. Lakers, one and done. Who'd have guessed? Unbelievable. Finger of blame everywhere right here in Los Angeles today. Seeing more fingers of blame than Lakers car flags, that's for sure. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.